Have you ever had one of those moments where you say something like, ugh, why am I like this? Maybe a part of you snaps at someone you love, or shuts down in the middle of a conversation, or spends hours trying to make something perfect that didn't need to be perfect at all. Most of us react to these moments by trying to shut those parts down. We tell ourselves to stop being sensitive, stop being angry, stop being needy, stop being too much. But what if the parts of you that cause the most chaos were actually trying to help you? What if nothing inside you was broken, just misunderstood, overwhelmed, or stuck in a job it took on years ago? That's the idea behind internal family systems, or IFS. And once you see yourself through this lens, the entire inner world you've been fighting suddenly starts making sense. So let's dive in. Sometimes the best way to understand the mind is through imagination. So picture this. Your inner world is like a busy city. There are loud neighborhoods, quiet corners, stressed out offices, and people running around trying to keep things together. Inside this city, there are three main groups. First, there are the guardians. These are the parts of you that try to prevent problems before they happen. They plan ahead, they worry about what might go wrong, they push you to work harder or act perfect. Their motto is pretty much, if I stay on top of everything, nothing will hurt us. Second, there are the emergency responders. These parts show up when you feel overwhelmed, embarrassed, scared, rejected, anything that feels threatening. They're the ones that slam the emotional brakes by distracting you, numbing you out, or making you avoid whatever feels intense. Scrolling for hours, eating the cope, shutting down, lashing out. These are emergency strategies. And third, hidden behind all that noise are your exiles. These are parts of you that carry memories, beliefs, or feelings you learned long ago. The you who felt ignored, the you who felt unsafe, the you that learned that expressing your needs wasn't welcome. They're tender, they're vulnerable, and because they're so sensitive, the rest of your system often tries to protect them by keeping them out of the spotlight. Most people never hear from their exiles directly. They only hear from the protectors trying to keep those exiles from getting hurt again. And this is where so many of our internal conflicts come from. Let me give you an example that might sound familiar. Imagine you're getting ready for work and you suddenly think, you really messed up yesterday. Don't screw up again. That's a guardian trying to keep you from repeating something painful. Later that same day, someone sends a message that feels a little cold and your chest tightens. Suddenly, without thinking, you pull away, stop replying, or lose interest. That's an emergency responder saying, let's avoid more hurt. Buried under both of those reactions might be an exile whispering an old belief like, people leave when you disappoint them. You may never hear that whisper, but your protectors hear it loud and clear. What looks like overreacting or self-sabotage is often just an inner system trying to keep you safe in the only way it learned how. Now, here's the twist. IFS teaches that none of these parts, not the perfectionist, not the worrier, not the avoider, not the angry voice, none of them are bad. They all formed with a purpose. They were created to help you survive something. Some protected you from emotional pain. Some kept you alert in a chaotic environment. Some numbed you because feeling everything would have been too much. And some kept you from taking risks because failure would have been unbearable. They're not trying to ruin your life. They're trying to protect you with the skills they learned a long time ago. The problem isn't the existence of these parts. The problem is that these parts often operate alone without guidance, and they try to run the entire city by themselves. That's when life starts feeling chaotic. But here's the good news. IFS says there's another presence inside you, one that's deeper than any of your parts. It isn't scared, it isn't reactive, it doesn't panic. It's called the self. Think of the self as the wise leader inside you, the part that can see the entire picture instead of just one moment, the part that feels calm even when emotions are high, the part that naturally responds with clarity, curiosity, compassion, and courage. The self is like the mayor of your inner city, but most of the time it's locked out of the office because your protectors think they have to handle everything themselves. IFS is about inviting the mayor back in, not by forcing the parts aside, but by earning their trust. So, how do you bring the self forward? The first step is simply noticing. Most of us never pause long enough to realize which inner voice is speaking. We blend with whatever emotion is loudest and assume it's me. But the moment you ask, which part of me is feeling this right now, you create distance. Let's say you're scrolling and avoiding something uncomfortable. Instead of instantly judging yourself, you might say, oh, a part of me doesn't feel ready to deal with this yet. What's it afraid of? Now you're not fused with the reaction, you're observing it. Or maybe you're spiraling with perfectionism. Instead of thinking, why can't I just relax? You might notice, there's a part of me that thinks mistakes are dangerous. Suddenly that part becomes a character you can understand, not an enemy you need to silence. This tiny shift from I am this feeling to a part of me is having this feeling changes everything. The next step is unblending. Unblending means stepping back far enough to let the self lead the conversation. A blended moment sounds like, I'm a failure, I always mess up. But an unblended moment sounds like, a part of me feels like a failure right now. I wonder why. One is a declaration, the other is a doorway. And once you're unblended, you can start asking questions protectors almost never hear. Like, what are you trying to protect me from? What do you wish I understood about you? What would you prefer to do if you didn't have to keep me safe all the time? You would be shocked how many angry parts are actually scared, how many lazy parts are actually exhausted, and how many controlling parts are simply trying to prevent old wounds from reopening. When protectors feel seen instead of fought, they soften almost immediately. And once they soften, the exiles they've been guarding for years can gently come forward and finally be heard. Not judged, not fixed, just heard. This is where deep healing happens. Now, let's talk about actual practice, ways you can start applying IFS today. 1. The inner check-in. Spend 2 minutes noticing which part is active. The critic, the planner, the avoider, the anxious one, the comfort seeker. Just naming them reduces their grip. 2. Separate the part from the self. Use phrases like, a part of me feels embarrassed. A part of me wants to shut down. This simple language shift invites the self forward. 3. Get curious, not controlling. Instead of forcing a reaction, ask questions. A part that feels heard becomes far less extreme. 4. Offer reassurance. Tell your protectors, you don't have to handle this alone. I'm here with you. These parts crave leadership, not punishment. 5. Check in with the exiles gently. If a tender memory or belief surfaces, don't push it aside. Let the self sit with it. Compassion is the medicine. The more you practice, the more you'll notice something remarkable. Your inner world starts to quiet down. Protectors stop yelling, exiles stop hiding, and the self, your calm, steady, wise center, steps forward more often and more easily. You don't become a new person. You simply stop being run by fear, shame, or old roles that were never meant to last forever. Your parts don't disappear, they evolve. The critic becomes an advisor. The avoider becomes a gentle protector. The perfectionist becomes a supporter. Even the firefighter who used to numb everything can transform into creativity or courage. When the self leads, the whole inner world reorganizes around safety instead of survival. And here's the most beautiful part. The self is never damaged. No matter what you've lived through, no matter how many battles you've had inside your own mind, no matter how many times protectors have taken over,